Good digital marketing cannot solve a bad offer. Marketing is not like a magic wand. It's more of like a megaphone. So it's going to amplify what's already there. You could have an amazing product. You're just not displaying all of the benefits. You're not convincing people that it's a good product on your website. So your website should do 3 things within 5 seconds of somebody coming to your website. So immediately, within 5 seconds, you know what they do, who it's going to help, and what next steps are. So if your website does not do that within 5 seconds of someone coming to your website, that needs to be updated. Your revenue will match the difficulty of the problem you are trying to solve. So if you have a really difficult problem you're trying to solve and you solve that problem, it's more likely your revenue is going to go up because of that. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Digital Revolution podcast. In this week's episode, I want to talk about 5 truths that nobody tells you about growing online. So as you know, I'm an agency owner, and I talk to lots of businesses every single week. Some of them are brand new. Some of them have been around for quite some time, and I'm starting to see patterns. So there's a lot of those commonalities that come up, and so I kind of want to address those. And a lot of people come in with improper expectations. They come and they just think, oh, I'm going to hire an agency, and within weeks or a few months, everything's going to be better, right? The traffic's going to increase, sales are going to increase. We're going to have a huge return on investment. Sometimes that is the case, but a lot of what we do in the first month outside of like technical fixes in the agency, when we get a new client, we go through, we do an analysis, we look at the data, we look at the technical stuff that needs to be updated. And not just that, but we figure out where people are dropping off. We figure out like when people do come to the website or to social media or click on an ad, like why are they dropping off? And there are a handful of things that you need to figure out before that. So good digital marketing cannot solve a bad offer, right? So marketing is not like a magic wand. It's more of like a megaphone. So it's going to amplify what's already there. If you already have a bad offer, if it lacks clarity and urgency and differentiation from your competition, chances are people are going to come in and they're going to bounce, right? So common signs of seeing that are, maybe they see your website on Google, but they don't click, or maybe they do click, but they don't convert. So really, like, imagine you have this old car. It's a little bit rusty. You polish it up, you wax the hood, you buff the wheels, add new spoilers, you get it looking just beautiful from the outside. But then you go in and you turn the key and nothing happens, right? Your marketing is the look and the feel on the outside, and people are like, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. You get millions of people to see it and say that is beautiful. The problem is if it doesn't start, that's your product. So if your product is not good, or it's not set up in a way to explain the benefits to the user, then they're just going to bounce anyway. And so there is a good differentiation right there that we do need to talk about. You could have an amazing product. You're just not displaying all of the benefits. You're not convincing people that it's a good product on your website. So when they come to your website, it's just not clear enough for them to want to move forward, to schedule the appointment, to become a lead, to call you and ask the questions they need to ask. So if you do not have a great product that is explained really well on your website, no amount of SEO, no amount of paid advertising, no amount of social media is going to fix that problem. You're going to be throwing mud up against the wall and hoping some of it sticks. And so if you're going to get 10,000 sessions a month and only 10 of them convert, if you fix your product or the product offering or that service, then, you're going to get more than 10 that convert. You're going to go to 20 or 30 or 40 or 50, right? So think through your product. Is it a good product? Is it a good offer? Is it a good service? Does it solve the problem that people are asking for? And a lot of times, maybe it's not like going back and like reformulating the product. A lot of it could be just rewording the messaging on your website or your social media or wherever you're trying to communicate it to help people understand up front, this is what it offers. These are the problems that it solves. Okay. So now let's talk about what business owners are still getting wrong with their website. you feel like your website traffic is kind of in a slump right now, or maybe over the last couple of weeks or months, it's actually dipped quite a bit and you cannot figure out what to do next? Go to fireusmarketing.com/meeting to schedule a free meeting with me where we can look at your website, talk about your frustrations, and see if there's anything that I can do to help you out. The meeting is absolutely free. There's no strings attached. If I can help you, I'd love to. Again, go to fireusmarketing.com/meeting. We'll talk to you soon. I analyze a lot of websites every single week. Every time new clients come in, I do this analysis and try to figure out, is there a way that we can offer value? And here are some of the common things that I see. Coming to the website, first of all, I think people are treating the website, and maybe this is not intentionally, but maybe the website's been around a long time or it's brand new. Either way, depending on the platform it's built on, a lot of times it's easy to make it look like brochure style, or not really know where to put the offer. It's unclear. It doesn't have a call to action. So your website should do 3 things within 5 seconds of somebody coming to your website, okay? So somebody comes to your website, they should know exactly what you do and what you offer. That's number 1. 2, they should know who that offer or product is for. And 3, they should know what the next steps are. So a clear call to action to a landing page, to a contact form, to a calendar where they can sign up. They need to know immediately within 5 seconds of coming to your website, those 3 things. Okay, so think about all the times you've driven home from work and you're driving down a street. Maybe it's Main Street and there's businesses on both sides. Some of them have big, huge signs. They're, almost calls to action written all over the window. And some of them are just kind of blank and you're not really sure what they do. So imagine walking down that street instead of driving and you're looking in the windows, and some of them have, super awesome paintings all over the windows. They have signs put up, and others, it's just kind of like maybe even fogged over. They don't want people looking in or anything like that. And now imagine walking by a shop that, that says up on the window, it says, struggling with anxiety, come in, first consultation is free. So immediately, within 5 seconds, you know what they do, who it's going to help, and what next steps are. So if your website does not do that within 5 seconds of someone coming to your website, that needs to be updated. Okay, number 3, not all traffic is created equal. Cheap traffic is not the same as valuable traffic. And I see this a lot when people have worked with other agencies. They come to us and they say, well, they said they were going to rank these 3 keywords in the top 3 positions within, 60, 90 days, something like that. And they did, but nothing happened. Or they did, and we got a lot of traffic, but we didn't get a lot of conversion. So that could be a number of things. It could be the first 2 things that we talked about. Maybe your calls to action's not as clear. You're not doing those 3 things immediately on the website. That could be. But what I see a lot of agencies doing is just increasing visibility. Instead of really worrying about like the right amount of visibility, not the right amount, but the right type of visibility. I would rather, as a business owner, have 100 people come to my website that have the intent of buying a service and have 2 of them sign up than I would have 10,000 sessions on the website and 2 of them show up, right? Like, you need to make sure that you're focusing on the right type of traffic, okay? Intent is huge. I've talked about this in the past where I worked for an essential oil company, and some of the executives would come and say, we need to rank for the keyword lavender, right? But when you went to Google and typed in lavender, Google's intent was not the lavender essential oil. Like, how do you know if you just type in lavender if the user wants lavender essential oil, if they want lavender the smell, if they want lavender the plant, if they want lavender the color? Like, you need, if somebody types in lavender essential oil, the intent is so clear. And that is the type of keyword that you need to be focusing on. You need to look at the intent that people are searching for and go to Google, type in that keyword. And if the rest of the results don't match the intent that you're trying to go for, Google's not going to change their intent in the results just because of one website. So chances are you're probably not going to rank very well for that keyword because the intent is not lined up. What you really need to do is you need to reverse engineer what people are looking for. So for example, we've been working with a lot of therapists lately, and they want to rank for therapists near me and mental health therapists near me. And those are all valid. Those are all good, and we want to rank for those. There are people who do search for that, but there are far more people who are searching for, how do I fix my anxiety? How do I help my child with stress? How do I fix my marriage, right? Whatever the problem is, that's what they're searching for. And you need to reverse engineer what you do on the website to get people to your website, first of all, and then present them with the solution of therapy can help with anxiety. Therapy can help with your marriage. Therapy can help with, list out all of your services. So understanding the intent really helps. Targeting the right keywords really helps. Understanding the intent really helps. And then reverse engineering the questions that people are going to be asking to find your service. And then that's what you need to talk about on your website. Okay, so number 4 is a common one that we've talked about a lot in the podcast in the past, but the myth of set it and forget it. I can't tell you how many new potential clients come in and say, well, can I just pay you 1 month to come in and optimize, and then I'll be good, right? Or you can train me for a month and we'll do some coaching, and then I'll just take care of it from there. Coaching is a valuable way for you to take on that responsibility and move forward with it. But a lot of times you can't get everything you need to know in a specific channel of marketing. So SEO or paid search or whatever it is we're coaching you on in 4 sessions, right? And part of the reason is because, especially if you're not technically savvy, if you haven't built websites before, haven't optimized the websites before, a lot of the stuff that we're going to be teaching you in those coaching sessions, it's new. A lot of it is kind of over your head. And I'm not trying to talk down or anything. This is just the experience that I've had with a lot of clients. I've had clients almost break down in tears saying, I don't understand anything that you're saying. Can you break it down even more? Where I thought that I was being pretty high level. And so I had to go and reevaluate how I was coaching and understand where they were in that process first before we started that coaching session. So there may be some people who come in and within, 4 sessions can kind of get a grasp on things. But for the most part, it's going to take, 12 sessions or more of coaching for you to run with that. So not to say that you can't do it, but if you want to hire an agency to come in and do a one-time optimization, sometimes it's really good because there is a lot of technical problems on some websites. There's a good amount of benefit to optimize your Google My Business or Google Business profile. There are some benefits to doing a one-time optimization, depending on the client, depending on the type of website, the industry they're in, what their competition looks like. But for the most part, this set it and forget it mentality just doesn't work. And the reason is that Google is constantly updating their algorithm. And so when the algorithm changes, if your website or your strategy and approach don't change with that, then your website can be left behind, especially if your competitors continue to work on that and you don't, right? There's another thing that is called ad decay. So if you put out a couple ads, we help you optimize it, and then you just set it and forget it. What happens is over time, one, people are going to see that ad over and over and over. They're going to get bored from it. Immediately, they're going to know that it's you. If it didn't work the first 10 times they saw it, it's not going to work the next 10 times they saw it, right? So we need to be continually improvising and adding new ads and adding new categories and going in and making sure, speaking of intent, we need to have, the negative keyword list where if the intent is not correct for that ad, we need to go and put it on a list that tells Google or Facebook or wherever we're advertising, don't display it when people type this specific keyword. You need to be very specific on how you're putting your ads out to get the most value from that. The other thing is there's blog decay, right? Some clients I've had for, over 10 years, and we've recently gone back and looked at some of the blog posts that we did 13, 14 years ago. And 13 or 14 years ago, you could get away with a 200 to 300 word blog post, and things would work, and you could do that in bulk, and things would be just fine. Nowadays, that also, again, just depending on the industry and what audience you're trying to target. But in this specific analysis that we were doing, 200 word article that hasn't changed in, over 10 years. It wasn't getting any traffic. It hadn't got any impressions. So we went through and we did a full analysis and we said, is it something we can add to and create more value? If so, let's do that. If not, and we already have potentially another blog post that we've written more recently that addresses it, then we can combine some of the content, or we can just get rid of it completely and redirect it to something that's very similar, or we can 410 it and say, Google, we're done with this. We're not going to do anything like this moving forward. So it's just gone, right? So you have your blog decay, you have your landing page speed test, depending on what platform you're on. Like if you're on WordPress plugins are always updating. WordPress, the back end of WordPress is always updating. And sometimes they can inject a bunch of code that can slow down your website, or it conflicts with a plugin that you have. And if you're not constantly monitoring those things, then your website performance can just go down, 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 and down. So the set it and forget it thing, it just doesn't work. You have to have ongoing optimization. You have to have somebody looking at it that knows what they're doing and can really help make sure that those important things are being kept up with the algorithm, with fresh content, with your ad decay, there's a number of things. Always looking at the data and seeing the low-hanging fruit. Maybe Google had an algorithm update that benefits you in a certain way, and it took some of your keywords and pages from ranking on the 9th page to ranking on the 2nd page. If you have an SEO or an agency looking into this, they'll go and they'll find that, and they'll be like, how do we get it from the 2nd page to the 1st page, and from ranking number 9 to ranking number 1, 2, or 3? Always looking for those opportunities to benefit from the low-hanging fruit, right? So not all Google algorithms are going to punish you, which you need to be aware of as well. Some of them can positively impact you, but if they only get you to the 2nd page, it doesn't really matter. One of the funny sayings that people say in the SEO industry is the best place to hide a dead body is on the 2nd page of Google, because nobody ever clicks to the 2nd page, right? So if you're ranking on the 2nd page, what can you do to get on the 1st page? And a lot of times it could be something as simple as, some more internal links, or updating your title and meta description, or, a number of things. You could do a number of things to get it from the 2nd page to the 1st page. And if you're not monitoring that, and your competitors are, they're going to be benefiting from that, and you're going to be stagnant. So do not set it and forget it in any aspect of your digital marketing. Okay, now the last one I told you is not necessarily something that business owners make mistakes with, but it's what would I do if I were coming in starting fresh? If I were at zero, knowing what I know now, starting a new business, and I wanted to succeed online. So the first thing I would do is I would get crystal clear on my ideal customer and my core offer. So who am I trying to target, and what am I offering them? What problem am I solving for those? I've heard a quote going around that says your revenue will match the difficulty of the problem you are trying to solve. So if you have a really difficult problem you're trying to solve, and you solve that problem, it's more likely your revenue is going to go up because of that, right? So I would get really clear on who I'm targeting and what my offer is, how I'm going to help them. The next thing I would do is I would build a very high converting website. It wouldn't be anything too fancy. It would have all the things that we've talked about in the past. Within 5 seconds of coming to the website, you would know exactly what I offer. You would know who it's for, and you would know next steps, right? So whether you're clicking to a calendar page or putting your email in a capture form, whatever it was, those 3 things you would know right away. And then I would create a valuable lead magnet, or a resource that would build trust. So I have multiple ebooks out. I have one on the website that is the ultimate guide to SEO, where we talk about local SEO, national SEO, and international SEO. And I break down how to do each of those. So that's a lead magnet that people can get for free from my website that builds trust in who I am. Also, doing a podcast like this, if people want to work with me and they want to find out what type of person I am, they can watch, the 70 plus episodes that we've done in the past and hear how I interact with people, hear where I disagree with people, hear where I agree with people, hear my philosophies on SEO, or my philosophies on paid advertising, or whatever area of digital marketing, or, how I think AI is going to impact us in the future. So that allows people to get to know me a little bit and builds trust. So I would continue to do something like that. The next thing I would do is I would create a blog on the website. And at a minimum, I would add 1 new blog post per week, starting out with content that solved problems for my user. A lot of people want to gatekeep a lot of those problems because they want somebody to come into the office and then they can sell them something, right? If you're a dentist or a lawyer or a doctor or whatever, it's easier for you to make that sell if somebody is in the office already. But what I would recommend, especially these days with AI and answers to questions being so readily available, I would answer those questions on your website. So whatever problem you're trying to solve for your ideal client or customer, I would write about those all day long on your blog post. I would give the answers free to everybody. Because what happens, especially like in SEO, we've done, 100 blog posts around SEO on fireusmarketing.com, and we get a good amount of traffic to those, and it answers a lot of problems. But what we find is that people love to know the answers, but maybe they're too busy or not willing to do the work. And so they end up hiring us to do that work for them. So the same thing is going to happen. It's going to trickle down in your business. So I would definitely start a blog post and make that happen. I would also create, depending on the type of business you have, I would create some kind of referral program. I would, you could potentially hire some influencers or whatever, but even your customers, if you're a dentist and you have a referral program saying that, hey, if you refer somebody to me, I'll give you X% off your next visit or whatever. And for somebody who has, I have 4 kids, and every time we go to the dentist, it starts to add up, right? It starts to get a little bit expensive. If I had a referral program, and when I saw somebody post on Facebook that said, hey, who knows a good pediatric dentist, I would definitely send them that way. 1, because first, hopefully I already have trust in that dentist, but 2, I'm going to save some money on my next visit, which is super valuable to me. So I would have some kind of like referral or incentive program set up. And that helps when you're, getting on these local directories, when you're, writing your blog posts. It's easier to put those deals out there and show people that you are willing to give back and add value at the same time. The next thing I would do is I would use social media to test before doing paid advertising. So you can start some basic paid advertising, do some branding, stuff like that. But you need to do some organic social media to find out, let's say you do 10 posts and, all of them get 15 views and one of them gets 5,000 views, that something about that works. I would take that one video or that one social post and I would turn that into a paid advertising post while I continue to do organic social media to find the next type of post that works, right? So it's an easy and a free way to test before spending a lot of money on ads. So really, like what I'm really talking about is building this foundation, right? I need a foundation before I really dive into the digital marketing. I need a great website, a good converting website, a very clear website before I start sending any paid ads. And before I start sending a lot of paid ads, I'm going to know what videos and graphics already work because I've tested them on social media. So it's kind of like building a house. You need a foundation before you put up the curtains. You're not going to go and say, I want to build a house, let's go pick out curtains. You're going to build the foundation, then you're going to build the walls, then you're going to put in, your doors and your windows and everything. And then you're like, okay, let's design this. Let's put some curtains in there. If you start at the curtains, you're doing it backwards. You may not have a strong foundation. And so building a strong foundation is really the most important thing you can do in your business. Whether you've been around for a long time, whether you're just starting, you need to make sure that you have that strong foundation. So really just kind of like recapping what we talked about. There's 5 different things. 4 of them are things that I would recommend you do in your business. Whether you end up hiring an agency, hiring somebody in-house, or doing it on your own, you need to have these 4 things set in stone, solid, and a good game plan, right? Okay, listen up real quick. I promise I'm going to get you right back to the episode. But are you frustrated that your product or service isn't getting the right amount of visibility it deserves online? If so, and you want my help guiding you through the SEO optimization, go to fireusmarketing.com/SEO to get my free SEO guide. It talks about all levels of SEO, local SEO, regional SEO, national SEO, and international SEO. It should give you everything you need to optimize your website at a basic level. If you'd like help beyond that, feel free to hit me up at fireusmarketing.com. I'd be happy to jump on a call and talk through your needs. Now let's get back to this episode. Okay, so number 1 is making sure that your product, service, or offer is solid. No amount of good marketing is going to sell a bad product, at least long-term, maybe temporarily, but not long-term, okay? Number 2 is making sure that your website is set up correctly with the right calls to actions, with the right clarity about what you do, and addressing who you do it for. And then number 3 is making sure that you get qualified traffic and not just traffic, right? So cheap versus valuable traffic, understanding that you can rank for a lot of different keywords that could drive traffic, but if it's not the converting type of keyword or key phrase, it doesn't matter. People can come to your website, they can read it all day. If it doesn't convert to a sale or a customer, then you shouldn't focus on it. again, you need to reverse engineer what people are searching for. So the actual solution to the problem they have is not therapist near me. It is, how do I fix my anxiety? So reverse engineering those keywords and those phrases and then writing some blog posts about it. And then the fourth one is the myth around set and forget it. So you need to be consistent. It is a marathon, whether you do an SEO, paid search, email marketing, whatever it is a marathon. So many things change in the digital world. Like I look at these kids who go to college for 4 years in marketing, and what they learned on year one is already outdated by the 5th year when they're out graduated looking for work. So not to go off on another tangent, but there are a lot of programs out there. Here in Utah, there's one at Mountain Lion Technology that I think is a 9-month program. It goes over every aspect of digital marketing within a 9-month period. You get your certificate and you can go get a job. I think that's way more valuable than a 4-year degree in digital marketing if that's what you're doing, just because things change so much. So really back to the set it and forget it thing. Things change fast. They change often. They're in a constant flux. So whether it's the algorithm updates, whether it's your blog post decay, whether it's ad fatigue, all of that, you just need to make sure that you're keeping up on. You need to make sure that your site speed is constantly being watched, and the updates coming to your website don't break things. There's just so many things on that checklist that you need to be aware of. And then the last thing we talked about was if I were to start over, what would I do? We don't need to go over that whole thing again, but just understanding that I care about you. I want to make sure that your business succeeds. I want to make sure that you're set up for success. So if you're in this position and you want to work with me, don't take this as I need to fix all this before I come and work with Eli, because we can help you with that, right? But it is frustrating sometimes when we get somebody in and they're not willing to work on those things. Then it doesn't matter how much SEO or paid advertising we do. They're never going to convert. They're always going to come back later and say, well, we've been paying you for X amount of months and nothing changed. So if you're willing to make those changes, we can help you do the analysis and find out what those changes are. So don't let this hold you back from coming and talking to us or any other agency or hiring in-house. You just need to make sure that before you're really open up the floodgates of marketing, all of these things need to be set in stone. And a lot of it can be done within, a month of updates and marketing and stuff like that. So either way, that's all I have for this week. Hopefully it added some value. If you have some questions, feel free to go to fireusmarketing.com and reach out to me. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next episode.